Canada, the friendly country everyone loves situated at the top of North America. Canadians have always been known as friendly, happy, and friends to everyone. Canada has become a self-governing dominion from the British Empire since July 1st, 1867, and obtaining full sovereignty more than 100 years later in 1982. This great country is full of British and French history due to colonization that can still be seen to this day. The British and French settlers helped build up Canada to help be the powerhouse it is to this day, with of course the help of immigrants from all around the world. As populations around the world grow, more and more people may begin to look at other places to move, work, and set roots. In the United States, we see a large majority of Mexican immigrants. In France, we see Algerians. And in Canada, we're starting to see Indians. As of 2022, India's population reached over 1 billion, surpassing mainland China, making it the most populous country in the world. With a population of over 1 billion and a country that is still very much not developed, it makes sense that India would have one of the largest diasporas in the world. Indians can be found from Fiji to Guyana to Mauritius. Their population reaches all corners of the earth, and their population is very much still growing. To give an even more in-depth comparison, if only 1% of the population were to leave India, that would still be over 14 million people, which is more than the entire population of countries like Sweden and Bolivia. Countries with progressive leaders are very much aware of this and use that to their advantage, allowing foreigners to come into their country and gain status much quicker and easier through methods like education. Canada takes the approach of immigration completely different by using a points system, rather than going off of ethnicity alone. It has even been admitted by Canadian leaders that having foreigners coming to their country can even be seen as lucrative.
International students are a credit to this country, Mr. Speaker. They are the future of this country, and they are an asset that is very lucrative, and we cannot let them down.
Indians are very much well aware of this too. And not saying I don't blame them, but seeing the opportunity to move to a developed nation with an average GDP per capita of nearly $55,000 is a lot. In fact, in nearly 10 years, the amount of Indians to have become permanent residents alone has jumped to over 260% change. The jump has actually gotten so bad that at the time of recording this video, Canada has put a cap on the number of student visas they're giving out for the next 2 years. Now, it is constantly argued that having foreigners come to countries like Canada is for specifically just educational reasons, but that just isn't true. The main purpose is to become a permanent resident and then eventually a citizen. Now, it is also important to note that these foreign students do have to pay more in tuition in order to be able to attend universities throughout Canada, but they're also supposed to prove that they have the necessary funds. And here comes the deception. Many students are coming to the country without the intention of ever attending schools, rather secretly working or finding ways of obtaining money while they're supposed to be attending classes. And to add, many of the Indians who are coming to Canada and trying to do it the right, legal way are getting scammed when they pay for their documents taken care of to come to Canada. And guess who's scamming them? Other Indians. Another large issue that is arising comes from Indians making YouTube videos explaining how to get free food and money and how to abuse systems that are set up for Canadians and not for students who claim to have money to support themselves. As the number of Indians began to pour in either legally or illegally, they began to have families, and as the children are born, they are entitled to citizenship through birth. The numbers will begin to increase more and more through this new scheme of immigration. On a more positive note, it is important to say that many Indians do contribute a lot to the Canadian economy, and some Indians have been there for generations before student visas were even abused. The problem is that most Indians don't assimilate. This is very much an Indian mentality of their culture versus Western, or in this case, Canadian culture, and we can see that tribalism still very much exists in India, which is thus brought over to Western countries like Canada. Many Canadians don't agree with these ideologies, and it's starting to negatively impact the country. We see Indians admitting that they don't agree with the law and they want things to change like India and be more like India, and of course would like to see more Indians in the country they choose to become the minority of. Heck, the national anthem has even been sung in Punjabi to represent this new group of people, and the Canadians are supposed to be okay with it? If you don't think that in itself is a problem, here's why. Canada's native languages are English and French, and the national anthem has been sung in these two languages for years. The large amount of First Nations and Aboriginals scattered around the country that have been there with no real effort to make the national anthem be sung in their languages and represent their people, why were we singing in a different language of a group of people that are not native to the country and have not built up the country? And now Canada wants to sing the national anthem in a non-native language for a minority group of people who refuse to adapt to Canada but expect Canada to welcome them. Canada is multicultural and full of people from all over the world, from big regions like China and the Philippines, and with huge cultural differences of religion, views on others, and overall beliefs that are deeply rooted into you and your culture. It can cloud your judgment of how you view different groups of people. Someone that is Muslim and wishes for Sharia law in a country that is more progressive and has a democracy doesn't blend well. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Adding thousands and thousands of people whose only real intention is to make money and gain a stronger passport isn't going to help the country progress in the way it once did. In a perfect world, India would become much better off economically for all the people. There'd be less drive for them to leave and create little Indias all around the world. But since that isn't the case, it's best to control the chaos now before it gets any worse. But I'm afraid it's already too late.